Why do so many people fall into the trap of preaching that you ought to chase your dream here on YouTube? I think it's something you say relatively rarely in real life, or it's something you'd say with great trepidation in real life. I do not think you would casually tell somebody you know face to face, even if you don't know them very deeply, oh, you want to be an actor or an actress? Chase your dream. Like, even if it's someone who's just a classmate of yours, someone you know in a kind of shallow and passing way, at a minimum, you might judge them based on their appearance, and you might already have reasons to say, maybe you shouldn't chase that dream. You can judge them based on their appearance, based on how you know them, and you can judge their dream. Maybe being an actor isn't the best dream for this person. Maybe you know that right away. People usually ask me about, heroes I've had in my life, people I've looked up to, people I've respected. They're normally looking for an author, a famous intellectual figure, maybe a movie star. They're normally not asking about people I've known face to face, but sometimes people ask me, did I have any role models of that kind? Was there a particular professor, friend, uncle, grandfather? Was there anyone who positively inspired me or guided me in these kinds of decisions? Was there anyone who ever advised me to go out and chase my dream, as so many people do here on YouTube? I think I can say I might be a very different person if I did have that kind of positive contact, whether through books, through writing, or through people I knew face to face, but I didn't. And I mean, part of my ultra cynicism, my overt nihilism, doubtless links to that experience I had. And it's not really growing up. You're not talking about childhood. I think you're really talking about the last couple of years of high school and then the university period of time. That's when you're really talking to people about your dreams, talking to people about your plans for the future, seeking advice. And in my case, you're being disappointed again and again with the advice you get. The format we have here on YouTube, it's very different if I'm replying to a specific email I've received, a specific message within Patreon from a Patreon supporter, a specific written comment. I may give one person advice. I had a guy writing to me lately, and he was talking to me. He was asking for advice about vegan activism, about political activism, given the fact that he's confined to a wheelchair. He has a very serious disease, innate condition. He can't walk, and he can't drive a normal car unless the car has been specially modified for him to drive it. So his approach to activism is different because he has a physical disability. He's also a university student, so, he's a relatively highly educated person. He's still in university, etc. The advice I give him is, even just with that little bit of information, what do you think? Do you think I'm stupid enough to come on here and make a video and say, oh, chase your dreams? If you know someone in a wheelchair, what if their dream is to be an actor? Well, yeah, there are a very small number of jobs for someone who's confined to a wheelchair to be an actor. If someone is confined to a wheelchair and they want to be a political activist in veganism, I was trying to give him meaningful advice where I talked about, okay, there are some forms of activism you can do, and there's some forms of activism you can't do. And some of them are underrated and some of them are overrated. Let's really sit down and talk about it. And that's all I know about him. I've never met him. We haven't talked by Skype. He just sent me an email saying, oh, yeah, he also said he was poor. So he's broke, he has no money, he's a university student, so he doesn't have a lot of time. And he's confined to a wheelchair. He's been vegan for 5 months, but he's really highly motivated to get involved with vegan activism. So beautiful. It was a wonderful email to get, and I was very happy to reply to him. But something about the format of speaking to your imaginary audience and trying to give advice that's equally valid for everyone in your audience that seems to lead people down this path of preaching that you should chase your dreams. And it's very rare to hear someone questioning that paradigm, the chase your dreams paradigm. Lord Jamar, who's a former rapper, former hip-hop artist, who these days mostly comments on hip-hop culture, rap, and what have you. I remember Lord Jamar questioning it in a totally different political context, but he said, what if my dream was to be a revolutionary? And, for a guy, he's a black man from a certain generation that very much was in transition in terms of civil rights, in terms of the status of African Americans. And I think when he was younger, he did. I mean, he's speaking about himself pretty directly. What if his dream is to lead a violent revolution and try to found a new republic, start a new society, start a new country. I don't know if he specifically was a black separatist, African American separatist, but anyway, he's alluding to his own youth being involved with radical politics of various kinds. What are you going to do? Are you just going to say chase your dream? Are you going to say because that's what you identify as, that's how you imagine yourself, that's what you should do with your life? In my case, when I got to the end of my university education, I had narrowed down my research interests and chosen my path of the future, and I was pretty well focused on Cambodia. Now, I met one of my brothers. If you haven't been watching this channel for a long time, I have approximately 100 brothers. My father had a ludicrous number of children. And this was, in fact, the first and last time I ever sat down and had a face-to-face conversation with this particular brother. So this brother, I had met him before for 5 minutes. We were just like, oh, hey, we should meet and have coffee. And then this was when we met and had coffee. And then since then, we never spoke even once, which was his choice. I tried to stay there to try to have a relationship. But this was the only conversation I ever had with this particular brother. And you'll see why I mention this particular brother of mine, he is gay. So of all my brothers, he's the only one who actively identifies as gay. Which just goes to show, if you have enough kids, sooner or later, I think there is some statistical inevitability. If you have enough kids, some of them are going to be gay. But anyway, this brother of mine, he's gay. And when he was asking about what I was doing in the future, at that time, I was basically already done university. I was like, all right, I'm packing up and moving to Cambodia. And, I had this combination of historical interests and language interests and research interests. I had totally down-to-earth reasons for moving to Cambodia. It wasn't that I wanted to be a movie star. That might be a viable goal if you want to go to Cambodia and work in the movie industry, especially at that time. But, I mean, there was nothing... there was nothing as extravagant as wanting to become a movie star or wanting to become a famous singer or anything like that. But I said, yeah, these are my reasons. I want to go to Cambodia and do this kind of work and work in the language. And I remember his response was it wasn't just dismissive. I was going to say it was 100% dismissive and contemptuous. Really what it was, he was simply completely certain I would never do it. His response was, oh no, that's not going to happen. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to give up on that dream and just move on. Like in no time, you're just going to forget about it. And he didn't even think I would try and fail. He just thought I'd never go to Cambodia. Like this would never happen. As I recall, I think he'd been to Cambodia on vacation. I don't know. Anyway, he'd traveled around. He'd been around the world on vacation. I don't know whether or not he'd ever actually gone to Cambodia, but he was just completely dismissive of that. And I remember looking at him. So this is someone who has the same DNA that I have, but who's never met before. I asked, have you met me? This is my own brother, but like, what makes you think you know who you're talking to? You know what I mean? Like, what thinks you know? What makes you think you know the depths of my risk aversion? Why would you think? Like, why would you think this is unattainable for me? You know? I mean, it's true at that time, on the one hand, nobody said chase your dream. And on the other hand, nobody provided me with down-to-earth, useful advice. Nobody. And I talked to all my professors. It's actually worth reflecting. One of my professors in this department was an alcoholic, very self-destructive alcoholic, and it was hard to take what he said seriously. Another professor, he was a professor of Asian studies, etc. He had never been to Asia. He never got in an airplane. He never traveled, never did humanitarian work. So he had no real-world experience. Just more recently at University of Victoria, I also had a lot of professors where they were, in that sense, disconnected from reality. It doesn't mean they're bad people. Some of them I really liked as people. But I remember I was talking to one of them about my future education and career options, and he was telling me to go to business school in Beijing or Shanghai. And I had to look at him. I had to look at him and say, have you met me? He'd known me then for more than a year. But what I actually said was not, have you met me? I said, you've read my CV. You've read my resume. Are you forgetting what kind of guy is described by that resume. It's slightly more polite. Why do you think I would go to a business school and get a diploma in business management in Beijing or Shanghai? And why do you think they would want me there? If a guy like me shows up in one of those places, I think most of those people know pretty soon I'm not the next Donald Trump. Except in a sense, of course, I am. But I'm not one of those guys. That's not my culture. It's not my interest, and so on. I can remember also I've been in that position of giving advice to others, and sometimes it's been people who wanted to go into the theater. It's such a different thing to look into someone's face, even if it's the first time you've met them, even if you know nothing about them, and say, chase your dream, when your dream may be self-destructive, it may be destructive toward others, it may be unattainable, it may be all too attainable, it may be that it's not ambitious enough. I mean, how many people do you know where their dream is to basically waste time, play video games? How many people do you know who just fundamentally lack ambition? Because even that advice, chase your dream, sometimes there's not a lot of chasing, and there's just a whole lot of dreaming going on. And for some people, like my own brother in that story, your dream, whatever it is just inconceivable to them. They can't imagine it. So any advice or encouragement they give is meaningless. It's not my place to tell people not to offer advice on the internet. I think that, what I've really got to say here is you should discipline yourself if you're on YouTube to always give advice speaking from a specific set of circumstances and to a specific set of circumstances. So I got this letter from a guy who's confined to a wheelchair. I don't know what that's like. I've never been in a wheelchair. I've never worked with the disabled. It's not my area of expertise. I'm not going to speak as an expert on that. But he's asking me questions about some things I know about, some things I can offer advice on. And I can say, okay, here's what I understand about your situation based on what he told me. Here's my experience, my background, my perspective. Here's what I can tell you coming from that. Because as I say again and again, I really am biased by my experience. If I had chosen to become a specialist in the Muslim world, in Arabic and languages related to Arabic, dialects of Arabic, my whole perspective on politics would be different today, and I would be emotionally invested in a totally different set of examples. If I had chosen to specialize in Haiti, in Central America, the Caribbean, or Latin America, my perspective would be different. It is true in ways both shallow and profound. Just even the selection of examples that I directed my attention to have biased my perspective when we're talking about something that's totally different, as ecology, the Green Party, veganism, etc. And they bias me if someone wants to talk to me about their dream, their dream, whatever it may be. So I do think the cure for advice-itis here on YouTube, the cure for chase your dream-itis, I think it is, you overuse the term keeping it real. What it really means in this context is to keep it real. To keep it real, your argument should proceed from specific experience and to specific experience. And try to avoid too many glorious generalizations on the road in between.